11:58, return from executive session.
All right. Item 5, there's nothing, no action necessary on executive session items. So item 6, presentation and discussion on fiscal year 2021 budget amendments. I gave you all a handout that has some suggestions on budget amendments, and I'm going to go through those very close detail. The first column, if you will, on these items is the projected totals for this fiscal year. So basically, we took what we have as far as actually through April and then extended it out and made projections for the rest of the year. The second column is the actual approved budget approved by this board and city commission. The third column is what I am suggesting we make changes to each of those line items, and we can go through those in a minute. And then the fourth column is what ends up being our budget after we make those changes. Okay. So on the taxes line item, there's 3 categories within the taxes line item. That's the sales tax, the percentage of the Pass Pro Shop sales, which is also separated only for accounting purposes, and then the additional retail is separated for accounting purposes. But what we've seen in sales taxes, as you've seen in the financial reports, is that we're far exceeding our projections from last year. Everybody's doing very, very well. We had projected and budgeted almost $4.5 million. We're on track right now to probably about 4.8. And so that's what I'm recommending on that particular line item, is an increase of $350,000 in our revenues because of the sales tax. And then the other 2 line items, that's an additional $30,000. So for taxes in general, it's $380,000 in increase to our revenue line. So if those numbers hold, and I think we'll hit that number, if not more, we'll be at almost $5 million in sales tax for this fiscal year. Charges for services. Right now, those charges for services, what we're talking about is increasing that revenue line item by almost $78,000, and I'll explain what that is. $55,000 is for rents that we receive, and then the other $22,000, actually, it's all the rents that we receive. We receive it from the 2 buildings that we own. So we're talking about almost $78,000 increase in charges for services, $77,984, for a total of $426,346 for that line item. And then we've got, because again of additional sales tax activity and additional retail sales activity, the intergovernmental line is a percentage of the monies that are generated around the Bass Pro Shop area are coming back to us to help us pay for that property we're talking about. It's an additional $13,000 that we're projecting above what I had projected in our approved budget of $60,000 to make it $73,000. The only negative on the revenue side is our interest rates. Not our interest rates, just the interest earned. Tech school and the now accounts aren't actually performing as well as we thought they would be, but that's just depends on how you look at things. It could be a good thing and a bad thing. It's keeping historically low interest rates, even lower than we thought. So we're not earning a whole lot of money on those investments right now. As a matter of fact, I'm projecting that we reduce that revenue line item by $10,300. So that's what that number is at $10,300. So we'll end up at $4,100 for interest earned on our funding that's in our bank accounts, in our textbook accounts. On the miscellaneous number, we've had a projected totals of just slightly over 900,000. We had budgeted 467,000. That so we've got $489,000 that we're looking at for our loan principal. We have projected the payments we're going to start for the health loans. So because of the timing, we have received probably about $17,000 in principal paid from those people that were borrowing. But we are now forgiving those loans. We're in the process of forgiving those loans. And instead of having that 17,000, we're going to have 489,000 coming back to us, which is the money that we loaned out. We're assuming that we were going to get everything forgiven from everybody that borrowed money from us. And so that's why we had an increase of 471,989. We had projected small payment, principal payment starting. And now with the 489 that's coming back from the city, that's boosting our number. The other is we had budgeted $350,000 for monies that we received for property taxes from the Bass Pro Shop. The property tax bill was actually about $305,000, so we're reducing that a little bit. Our net effect is that we're increasing that miscellaneous line item by $452,000. So that is another increase in our revenues to $920,000. We'll go through the expenditures in a minute, but just want to touch base when we look at the other financing sources. We had projected $1.2 million being transferred from fund balance for the program work that we had. We've added travel, Tyler, and Valley First Development, which was the buildings at the industrial park or around the industrial park, Chris Handy constructed. So those, and I'll go over those, I'll talk about the expense side, but those were not projected in the original budget. So we're taking some of that money from our fund balance and putting it into transferring it over into our revenue line. So we're increasing that transfer from fund balance by $278,594, which gives us about $1.5 million being transferred from fund balance versus the 1.2. So all in all, we've got an increase in revenues of almost $1.2 million. 489,000 of it coming from the city's transfer for the health loan programs, and the others coming from our basically increase in sales tax and from our fund balance. Okay. So our budget at the end of the day, our revenues will be $8,046,260. On the expense side, any questions on revenues first? On the expense side, on personnel, as I said earlier, that we had enough now comfort to where I can actually fill that last position. I hadn't filled that last position, and so we've got some savings on our personnel services that account for about $24,000. So that's a little bit of the savings. There's 20,000 and 4,000 that you had listed in your handout. And then we've got an increase of $12,000 on our expense side for website development and maintenance. So I'm doing that because we've already got our website done, finished. There's a few things that we're working on in terms of photography and other enhancements, but there's this other enhancement that we don't have to add onto our website. It's called Local Intel, and Local Intel will give us the ability to, how shall we say it, so just have more robust information.
Yeah, it provides more accurate information, data that prospective businesses would want to look out for. So more accurate data on our workforce, on our top industries, on our education. Would provide a really nice community profile, and then just the way the modules work, they're just really nice and very interactive. It'll really draw people to the website, leave them on there, just search and update. It'll also be pretty beneficial to us as a staff to be able to pull up this information, these in PDF form, shoot them out as an email. They're really nice, really sharp looking modules.
A lot of demographics information, and workforce information that we can put out that site selectors and other decision makers would really want to have. And so that's why I had that increase. On advertising billboards, we had a savings that we were able to accomplish from our requirement to have Bass Pro Shop billboards. We always budget 45,000. We were able to save $7,400 off that. So that's reflected in those numbers as well. And we had an increase in our professional services of $30,000. I put that in there to go from 120,000 to 150,000, so that we can account for the drainage analysis and study that we talked about at the last meeting. The scope of work is still being finalized, and once we determine the scope of work, then I can put out an RFP. But I want to make sure we had some money sitting there for professional services to handle that. So all in all, in administration, we've got an increase of $10,600. That brings us up from our approved budget to our new budget from 1.355 to 1.655. Or 1.365, I'm sorry. Yeah. All right. And then we've got some miscellaneous marketing fees. Those don't change. We don't have any changes in the other marketing line items. The other big change, again, is in our direct business incentives. Again, as reflected on the three items that we talked about: $620,000 for Project Travel, $800,000 for Project Tyler, and $66,667 for the Valley First Development. That's made in three payments over 3 years, $200,000 was allocated to it. But the first payment has already been actually made. So that's something that we hadn't had in our budget, and that's where we had that increase in our expenditures. On other charges, we've got, I had budgeted $90,000 for the Field Line Assistance Program. We agreed to $100,000, so that's a $10,000 increase on that line item. And that's basically it. So all in all, most of the activity is on those projects that we talked about. And the increase, some of the increase is being absorbed by an increase in sales tax revenues, an increase in contributions from the city to the help refunding, if you will, and also some savings on some of the administrative costs. Any questions? The impact of fund balance. Yeah. So we're healthy. Yeah. And those are good projects that you all have already discussed. So now, for future projects, again, kind of like these other projects, we don't budget them because we don't know whether they will come to fruition or not, and we don't want to tip our hand either. So we do have some reserves. We have the ability to be competitive in projects.
It's 21 looking to be more of a regular year. Pre-COVID type.
Yeah, I think so. I think we're going to start seeing a lot more activity in terms of, well, prospects haven't slowed down. Actually, we've gotten a lot of leads from the state that continue to come, surprisingly, not just on the industrial side, but also on some more of the biotech and medical healthcare related facilities and those type of things. So there's some really good prospects that are coming our way. Now, of course, we need statewide, but I like the activity. Our own gazelle and outreaches that we have continued to do very well in terms of getting people to ask us for more information. We have some prospects that are starting to visit. We've done some virtual site visits with some site selectors through RESTEC. Colleen can talk about in her report some of the outreach that's going on through our digital marketing, which is really, I think, starting to pay off. And then, just overall, Harlingen's much more visible in local media because of a lot of things that Harlingen EDC is doing. We've got commercials running, we've got a lot of print ads that are going, and we're working with the school district, we're working with the CBD and the city guys, downtown guys, and I guess they're going to touch up on all that. But things are going well, and I think they're going to continue to go well. I actually see an increase in activity over the next couple of years. So it's next generation. All the way back to, yeah. Well, a lot of it, of course, is being induced by a lot of federal injections. But hopefully, once people start getting to the point where they get back to normal and they start working, then we should continue to see that good activity. But yeah, all the municipalities, all the school districts, they all receive funding that has to be spent over the next few years. That's going to generate a lot of activity in the construction field and in the hospitality industry. So I see good job growth coming up and continued strong spending by a lot of consumers and B2B also. So we'll move on. There's bumps in the road that are coming up on some of the industrial stuff in Mexico. There's some activity down south of us that isn't necessarily conducive to continued industrial growth, but hopefully they iron it out and keep on trucking. Anyway, I guess I would need a motion to approve the budget amendment that's presented.
Say that. This is presentation discussion.
That's all. I mean, the idea of budget amendment contemplates the budget will be amended. It is.
Move to approve the amendments.
So moved. Been moved by second already. All in favor? Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. So on to staff reports.
Celine, you're on.
We can start with the video first. I do want to share, it's been a while since I've shared a Choose video. This one was actually filmed last year. It is in Spanish. I'm working on typing up some subtitles to add to, you can't hear it, but it's Texas Plating and Polishing Solutions. And I apologize about the audio. We were supposed to have the showing through this projector in the class, but last minute snafu. So, but the point of these is not just to promote Harlingen for business. It's also to help promote these existing businesses and promote what they're doing and showcase, why it is that they choose to do this business in Harlingen. We had slowed down a little bit with the chooses, but I'll go ahead and update on the next slide. As far as updates to the website, as Radel mentioned, we are looking at local intel to provide a more in-depth database and some modules that will provide any visitors to our website. Visitors to our website, some of that useful information that they would need to know, whether, before deciding to choose us to do business in. We also have updates to our website, photos. We haven't had photographs since, I believe, 2019, which hasn't been that long, but it's always good to have some high quality images to be able to use on our website and marketing materials, ads, and so on. We are going to be, HCISD, TSCC, UPRGB have all agreed to let us in and take some photographs so that way we can showcase their facilities. We're going to be taking updated pictures to our industrial parks, Polysachi, Texas Threads, and Aluminum. TPPS are some of the companies that have opened their doors and are willing to let us go in and take some photographs. Some updated photos of the Aerotropolis, the airport, the cargo area. And we're also going to be showcasing our quality of place, featuring our downtown, our local stores, our shopping centers, Bass Pro. We do need models. So we have a lot of willing participants. Ricky was one of them, and his family that will be modeling. Just because having actual people in the photographs makes it a little bit more engaging when you're looking at these pictures on our website. We are scheduled to shoot those next week, June 2nd through the 4th. We were actually scheduled last week, but the rain washed us out. So back to the Choose campaigns. We do have, here it says 4 videos pending. The TPPS has been delivered. Texas Threads is next. Haresh has been, just wonderful. He understands the concept that it's helping, the next slide, that it's helping promote his business and helping him, just an additional channel, an additional platform for him to receive free publicity, free marketing for his company. The next two that we have are Frankie Flaves and Megamorphosis. Frankie Flaves we're actually filming this week. Megamorphosis hopefully in 2 weeks. And these are some pictures of Texas Threads that was filmed 2 weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago. I'm working on a very, next slide, in-depth marketing plan. Last year's marketing plan I kind of had to throw away because of COVID. We incorporated a lot of digital within the last year that has, resulted in seeing a lot more traffic. People reaching out saying that they've seen our commercials, that they've seen our banners, and people, from as far as we're reaching people all throughout the US. We're targeting airports now, and we're in people's feeds, so we might not be there in person in conferences or events, but we're in people's phones and their desktops and devices. We're continuing this, working with Nexstar or Valley Central to come up with different ideas to keep within the budget and also be a little bit more creative in how we're appearing in people's feeds. So a little bit more organizational and digital and integrated marketing plan that will combine traditional marketing as well as digital marketing. And I sound so informed because I just finished taking a UTRGB digital marketing certification. It covered a lot of things that I already knew, combined with some additional resources and tools that will complement, the skills that I already have, and help me build on them in order to help build on our presence and our reach. So it's also helping me guide me through creating a structured plan. I do have some other events coming up. Now we're doing more in person, the TDC Mid-Year Conference in June, IAMC, and June 19th through the 21st. And then I'm working on updating with Nexstar and Valley Central on our digital marketing. I'm also working on some podcast ideas that would complement our Choose campaign. So this will, not only feature these business owners, but it also will help inform the public about what we do here in Harlingen. So, we have different ideas. There's a lot of different ideas, discussions that we can actually implement and, use for a podcast. We're hoping to keep them between 10 to 15 minutes long, nothing too long. But, just informing and educating and telling our story, just continuing to tell our story, just find different platforms to do it. So that is all.
Beverly?
Switch just so I can see the screen in front of me. In your board package, you'll see my typical month is usually filled with a bunch of different recruitment activities that I've listed here, from working on projects, submitting information to businesses that request information about Harlingen. Usually, again, that includes a lot of data. So the local intel that Bradell and Celine mentioned is very useful in my position. The projects that we're working on, we've discussed in the executive session, and there's a few others that we're working on as well. I attended a lot of webinars this past month, and probably will continue at least for another couple months until travel comes back to play. But I really wanted to focus my time going over some of the business support activities that we've been doing this month. First is the loan forgiveness. So Tanya and I have actually been working really diligently with the help loan recipients to ensure that they actually provide us with the loan forgiveness application in order to have their loan actually forgiven. As of Friday, we processed about 53% of the help loans, which is reflected here about 54%. As of today, we're about 60% of the way. And so we did get some more over the weekend and today. And so we're hoping to have all the forgiveness applications in by this month, but it'll probably be the first week in June that we actually see those, all the actual applications come in. The first loans were actually forgiven May 7th, and then every Friday I process them and send out an application or a loan forgiveness letter that Eric so graciously signed. And they receive that in their email so they can hold on to that, saying that their loan has been forgiven. We are asking that they hold on to any documentation for 4 years, just in case there's any audit. I did hear from several of the businesses that the application was simple. So there was, I was concerned. I was like, well, maybe the application's too hard, and that's why it's taking a little while. But no, many of the businesses have said it's pretty simple to turn in. So hopefully we'll get that in and finished by the first week of June.
It's not qualified.
No, they're all providing the information they need, and they're certifying that it's true and accurate. For the SBA, or the Small Business Administration, announced in early May that applications were open for the Restaurant Revitalization Fund. Since then, yesterday, that was closed. That application process was closed because of overwhelming response. Luckily, I was able to reach out to many businesses here in the Harlingen, and actually a few outside of Harlingen who reached out to me about the program itself, and they asked questions. It was early on, so many of them have already said that they've been approved, and some already knew about it and were working on it, and others didn't know about it, and so they were able to actually get on and start that process. So I'm really excited about that. Hopefully, later on we can hear about some data, local data. I did reach out to the SBA here locally to see if there was any actual local data, to see how many businesses in the region, probably not just Harlingen, but more county level, received the different funds through the SBA. I have not yet been able to get that data, and they have not received that data yet. So if that data comes our way, I'll definitely share it with you guys. So, let me scroll down. Okay, ribbon cutting. So as a chamber ambassador, and then I get to represent the Harlingen EDC at the same time. I was actually able to attend about 5 different ribbon cuttings this past month. One of those benefits of being able to attend those events is being able to meet the actual owner. And spend a little bit of time to talk about them, why did they choose Harlingen? What are their plans for growth? And oftentimes there is plans for growth. And so it's a great benefit to be able to be there at those events, and then be able to represent Harlingen EDC and promote what we do here. And then I did want to point out, sorry right here. I'm missing the page for that. Okay, I did want to point out that, oh wait, sorry. I have notes and I missed that. Okay, so another chamber event that I was actually able to attend was the Women Empowering Women Networking Lunch. And part of the reason why I bring this up is the individual who was speaking was the Amy Flores, who is the Chief Nursing Officer for Harlingen Medical. The event actually had about 30 different participants, mostly female. We had one male, Matt Wilcock was there. She did a really good job about, talking about empowerment and how we can empower others. But what I did want to mention also is that, we're proud of the hospitals that we have here in Harlingen. We have Valley Baptist, we have Harlingen Medical, but Harlingen Medical is also one of only 24 hospitals in Texas and the only one in Cameron County to receive a 5-star rating award from the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. And then the overall star rating is actually based on how well a hospital performs across different areas of quality, such as treating heart attacks and pneumonia, readmission rates, and safety of care. So I just want to throw out kudos to Harlingen Medical, but also a huge thanks to all the healthcare businesses and workers in Harlingen who actually go above and beyond in providing that excellent care to the Harlingen community. 1 second. And then finally, I also wanted to talk a little bit about NavNet and the Community Navigator program, pilot program. I'm not sure if you guys have heard about it, but basically the SBA will soon be announcing a competitive grant, which basically gives opportunity to nonprofits, local governments, and then other SBA resource partners. Those include EDOs as well, or economic development offices, to be able to go out and apply for this grant. And the idea behind the grant is basically that when a business or an entrepreneur asks 3 questions, and those 3 questions that are mostly asked are what resources are available, do I qualify for those resources, and how can I access those resources? And so they're wanting to provide funds or grant funds to businesses to be able to provide that help to that small business community. And additionally, a primary driver is actually to be able to reach that small business that hasn't been able to access that SBA program, and then rely on a hub and spoke model. So that's a little more detailed than I can explain later, but basically we're waiting for a funding notice to see what that looks like. What does a funding opportunity look like? Is it something that the EDC can participate in? We already reach out to a lot of small businesses. We do a lot of referrals to SBA, to the SBDC, to other entities. And so we're looking at seeing, what is that going to look like? Is there an opportunity? And so as we get more information, I'll be able to share it with you. This Navigator Network platform is basically a collaboration and a community of small business heroes who are already doing this job. And so they're providing a lot of information about the actual Navigator Network grant. And as information comes out, it's a great resource to be able to rely on to get more information about the grant program. So more on that later when it comes to data. Sales tax. So during our March board meeting, I think it was Ricky that asked about being able to get some more business industry type breakdown on our sales tax. And so in this May 2021 report, which actually represents March 21. So you'll see it broken down. You'll see May 2021, and then I also have a year to date. But in the May part, we can see that all business groups saw anywhere from a 3% to a 53% growth. With most of the sales tax being generated by general retail, which accounts for about 35% of the sales tax collected in this report. You'll also notice I included the adjusted sales tax year to date collected. In April, the year-over-year figures that were given in my last staff report, restaurants and entertainment were actually down 7.34%. And since, because of the May strong sales tax growth, the restaurants and entertainment now have a 1% growth. So, you know, in the beginning, we were talking about how retail sales is growing, but this report from April actually really identified that the retail and entertainment, or the restaurants and entertainment, were still suffering. And so it's good to see now with the May report that they're growing, and they're at a 1% growth now. And then on this next report, this is actually produced in segments by industry segments by the Texas Comptroller's Office. And so it's a little bit more, you know, different. It's a different segmentation. And this one is actually broken down by prior fiscal year plus the current fiscal year to date totals. And in this report, you can see that retail trade represents about 48%, or about $20.2 million being collected, with lodging and food services bringing in about 14%, or $6 million of sales tax collections in Harlingen. So year over year, with the newest May 2021 report that was sent out by the Texas Comptroller, it does show about a 15% growth year over year compared. So good things happening in Harlingen, and with that, I will open up to any questions.
Great. We'll dig into it. So yeah. So for the month of June, I will be attending the Site Selection Guild annual conference in Orlando. This will be the second one that we attended in person. In 2020, you can see from the pictures there, that was the last conference that we attended in person. COVID was starting to become in full swing. This conference is very important for the reason that we meet a lot of economic developers and professionals from around the world that are looking to invest or are looking to move different companies, whether it's reshoring into the US or Mexico. Last month, at the end of April, we attended the MRO Americas Aviation Week with Team Texas, and it was comprised of a couple of other communities from the state: Abilene, Lubbock, New Braunfels, Corpus, Amarillo, and Carroll. It's an international trade fair in the aerospace industry. Total, there was about 5,000 attendees. Back in 2019, when the same conference, there was over 32,000 attendees. We still, you know, like the exhibition hall was not as full as we expected it, but we did get about 140 contacts from our Team Texas booth. Out of those, you know, I'm following up with them in the next couple of weeks. I did make a couple of good leads that I'm following up. But I will tell you, everything that we hear, California companies moving into Texas and looking elsewhere, it's happening. It really is. We saw a lot of that come through our move. Then Adela and I met 2 weeks ago with Juan Villapuerte and Juan Zamora from the Sindicato of Matamoros for the maquila industry. And we discussed a couple of labor union reforms that were signed in 2019 by now the president of Mexico, Manuel López Obrador. And basically, you know, this new reform is gonna come and disrupt a lot of what's going on that we've heard months past. You know, people wanting to come in and create an additional union that, you know, basically drove a lot of the companies that are in Matamoros to work elsewhere in other states, or kind of pay what these people were asking for. So they came to us to kind of see where we could lend a helping hand. They say a lot of the pressures coming from the U.S. Onto Mexico. But, you know, again, we work a lot with Mexican maquiladoras, looking at their distribution centers, or what they're going to be doing as far as distribution on the U.S. side. Then work on the following projects. A couple of them we already talked about in the next sec. HMA, we're having our 8th monthly meeting this month. Since COVID started, we've been going virtual. Last one that we had on May the 6th, we actually gave the manufacturers that are part of HMA the opportunity to tell us what the landscape on production, labor, and supply chain is. And of course, what everyone else is hearing, they're having staffing issues, second and third shifts, people not wanting to come to work. So what we're doing is for our 9th one, which will be next month, we are having a speaker from a staffing agency to kind of give us the, you know, how the market in Harlingen is, the unemployment market, and what they're seeing, how many people are walking through the door, and how many are replacing. And so kind of to help the existing industrial customers that are out. The industrial customer, I met with a new plant manager for Emerson, Mirajan Desai. Again, wonderful guy. We started talking. He came to replace Raul Chavez, which used to be the plant manager that moved to Mexico, to run one of Emerson's newest plants. And again, we discussed one of his major issues is getting people in the door to work the different shifts. So our focus is going to be to try to help, you know, with all these staffing agencies, you know, talk to all these companies that are looking at not being able to fill customers. I mean, employees. Thank you.
All right, my report is in your packet. Has been posted. I can go through it, but you guys have read through it for the most part. I try to keep the same structure from one month to the other for the last 2 months, which is basically making sure that we understand what the goals were, how the work, and how my activity has impacted those different goals. So I guess just in summary, we've been pretty busy. And I talked about this earlier in the meeting. And it's good to see that. A lot of people may not be as busy, but with this particular office, we've got a lot of people that are calling in and looking for help, from small businesses to larger industries. We're working with our partners in training across the street and in other parts of the valley, like UPRDB as well, to try to make sure that we get access to good training programs. The NASA National Space Foundation grant that we talked about at the last meeting has been put in, and we're waiting for results, and hopefully PTRGB gets that grant next month. TSCC, their foundation has been working with us on trying to see if we can establish some kind of internship programs for particular industries. So they're working on which occupations, industries are more in demand, and which students are leaning towards trying to stay here locally in those kind of positions. So that's part of the workforce development that we're doing. our industrial base, that mine has already talked about what he's been doing. We continue to work with Restec. I was in a virtual site selector visit last month. We're going to continue to do some of that. We have South Texas Economic Council is going through some changes. They had a partner that has pulled out. Tax-wise, they have to, but it's going to make an impact on Restec. And they want us as officers and as major contributors to kind of step up and help out. Restec will end up being an all-volunteer type of organization. I say volunteer, but we're all paid staff in our own economic development organizations, but volunteers to that group. So the executive director is going to be bringing on. Restec's going to condensing its program of work, but they need help in staff support and administrative type of stuff that others are not stepping up to do. I think that there's a value to regional marketing that Restec provides. And I think that we can take on the small accounting work that they have in-house and we can help them out in that regard. So we're going to be doing that. I was at a Board of Trade Advisory Committee meeting this morning where we were reviewing kind of the results from the master plan that they had given and presented to TxDOT. We continue to work with THBI, Texas Healthcare Biotech Institute, promoting the healthcare industry here. Mayor Dan and I were privileged enough and honored to be a part of the screening process for the new dean of the School of Medicine here at UTRGV, who has some local ties. His mother lives here in Harlingen, which is great. So there's some good things going on in that regard as well. Obviously, there's some good facilities that are being built out there that are really starting to take shape. If you haven't driven out there, it really looks cool. And we're just glad that we've been able to, thanks to the City Commission's generosity, be able to give back to those 52 businesses that have borrowed the money from the health program. Some of them we still have not reached. So the next step is for us to actually go door to door and knock on those folks that we need. And I say us, but it's really that way. It's going to be doing that kind of work, and I need to. So there's a lot of detail here on the legislative front in your packet. We want you to know that we are keeping track of some of these bills that impact the community, impact what we do as an organization, and we're keeping up to speed on what's going on in Austin, just to make sure that they don't forget about us down here in college. I will say that the folks that we have working in Austin, the legislative consultants, have been very good and very responsive to us in terms of working with some of our industry partners and those guys that run into problems because of the February freeze or whatever else. So our folks up there have been very responsive. Terrell and William are top notch. Money to be put to good use on behalf of the Harlingen community and the businesses that are there. That's my report. Thank you all.
I think that conclude our meeting.
That's about it. Item number 8 is adjourned.
There we go. So we adjourn.